Howdy there, my name is Hippies, and you can call me B, and welcome back to some more Winter's Ways, yeah! Got our heart broken was that last time? I don't remember, but we got our heart broken just a tad, just a little bit. Hey, it's part of life. And now there was a Blightfall that was summoned. We're trying to find the source. But yeah. Me. If you give me verbal directions, I can estimate the summoner's location based on the direction the black threads are growing from. Undercover work is my forte, so I can get close without them noticing. Oh, really? In that case... I started to agree, then suddenly decided against it. Wait, isn't it dangerous for you to go alone? The summoner might not be the only one inside the warehouse. What if they have a few buddies with them? They're probably on high alert, and you risk getting attacked from behind. Are you worried? I won't make mistakes like those. You should be a bit more cautious, though. Who knows what'll happen to you if you approach them without a plan in mind and get caught in a trap. Bitch, I'm an expert. Don't worry about it. Tomonari pauses to think for a moment. You have a point. On the off chance something happens to me, I'd be worried for your safety. What do you think we should do then? I think we should check for anyone suspicious nearby before entering the Fire! There's a fire! Just then, I heard someone yell the most unbelievable thing. I immediately looked in their direction and saw plumes of smoke rising from the samurai abode next to the city warehouse. Huh? No way. A fire? Is it a distraction? I completely lost my wits, since this was the first time I ever witnessed a fire. Really? This could be bad. A Blightfall probably caused the fire to spread by storming around town. The flames were surprisingly quick, spreading to the warehouse in the blink of an eye. What do we do? We gotta find the Blightfall summoner, but we might be in danger if we stick around. As this thought ran through my mind, the door to the warehouse slammed open. Someone's coming out. I promptly stood at the ready, thinking the summoner had appeared. But instead, it was... Chie? No. Meanwhile, just when the fire had broken out... Ugh, damn it! It's Kunitaka's point of view, Pav. I view the Blightfall just slayed with a look of disgust. I really screwed up. The plan was to have him find the summoner while I kept the Blightfall alive, but I accidentally finished it off. Still, the Blightfall was moving very strangely just now. It started moving slowly all of a sudden right before I hit it. And as a result, I clumsily dealt a lethal blow to the Blightfall, which when I meant to use... Fuck, I'm sorry. And as a result, I clumsily dealt a lethal blow to the Blightfall when I meant to use restraint. I never seen a Blightfall move that oddly. What the hell was that all about? Did it have rabies? But was the Blightfall really the only one to blame? I looked down at my palms questioningly, thinking to myself, so he's thinking about us! Lately, I found myself recalling her face anytime my mind wandered. Her face when she was smiling, angry, bashful, troubled, all the different faces I'd seen her make since meeting her crossed my mind, then faded away once more. I thought you're not supposed to catch feelings, Kunitaka Tojo. The last expression that came to mind each and every time was the sad look she'd given me then. Yeah. When I told her it was impossible for vessels to be in relationships, her face contorted for a moment like she was on the verge of tears. She probably had no idea she made that face. She merely smiled to play it off. I never seen her look so sad. She got her heart broken. I wasn't wrong. I could guess how she felt. Still, I'd never be able to reciprocate her feelings as a vessel. Pining for a vessel was an exercise in futility. That's why I made a point of harshly pushing her. Pining for a vessel was an exercise in futility. That is why I made a point of harshly pushing her away back then, to cut her off early. I truly believed it was in her best interest. As a vassal and her elder, I had made the right call. But if I had, then why did it upset me so much? I wasn't wrong, but, what was that? I heard frenzied screaming somewhere nearby. I looked back and saw a large group of city firemen running over. When I glanced in the direction they were heading, I saw red flames rising from a mansion. Fire. The moment I saw it, a sharp pain shot through my head. Pain vanished almost immediately, only to be replaced by this familiar scene. Got some fire in your past, Coco? A familiar building going up in flames. Fire. Of course, it was a completely separate event from what happened. Of course, it was a completely separate event from what was happening before my very eyes. The scene causing me all this pain overlapped the fire in front of me. That wasn't all. Memories I had never had before also began flooding my mind. Are these my... Oh no. Soup and Tomonari came over while I stood there dumbfounded. Tojo, you're alright. A relieved smile was on her face. She seemed to be worried about me even though I pushed her away the other day. Kunitaka, did you kill the Blightfall? Yeah, my bad. My hand slipped and As I spoke, I realized Tomonari was carrying someone small on his back. I gasped when I saw the person's face. Hey, Tomonari, don't tell me that kid you're carrying is... There was no doubt about it. He was one of my students from the temple school. That boy, limp and unconscious, also seemed to be injured. Oh no. He got hurt in the fire. He what? Shocked, I looked closely at him. Sure enough, I could see some soot on his face. His right hand was blue, like blood had pooled beneath his skin. He must have administered first aid on him, as blood-soaked cloth was wrapped around his fingertips. Did he injure his hand? Soup nodded yes to my question, looking a bit pale. All of his nails were ripped off. Whoa. That's a terrible injury. How did this happen? Tojo, you see, this... She held out a familiar-looking item. Is that one of the oyster catchers we made at school? Why would it... This is the cursed object. For a second, I couldn't comprehend what she just said. What? That was all I managed to ask, my voice hoarse from shock. Following the black threads led us to a city warehouse. This child emerged from the warehouse right when the fire broke out. And this oyster catcher had been dropped in the ground nearby. There's no way. Yes, we're fairly sure this child was the summoner. What she said was so shocking I could feel my consciousness fading. Oh, really? It made him enough. I guess it is a bit of a shock. Chapter 6, Kunitaka Tojo. Oops. So he's starting to remember stuff, and he passed out. Oh boy. I only meant to let out a small, discreet sigh, but it ended up being incredibly loud. A suffocating silence hung over the Oniwabon base. Is that what the GA? I don't know. All of the Oniwabon vessels were gathered around, along with Miyagi, Yabuda, and myself. Everyone wore grim expressions. The Blightfall Summoner was a child. That may be all we've learned, but it's a start.
Or to put it the opposite way, it's only the start. They've already done or to put it the opposite way, it's only the start. They've already done serious harm.
Hey, don't lose your temper. We're one step closer to the truth. That's a good thing. Truth, my ass. Either way, wasn't expecting the summoner to be a kid. How could we have? We have no precedent for this.
You said it was a student from Kunitaka's temple school, too. That blew my mind. The cursed object was one of the oyster catcher toys Kunitaka had the children craft, correct?
Right. Tojo was looking down at the ground the entire time, saying uncharacteristically little.
I'm positive it was the cursed object since Soup confirmed it was covered with black threads.
It was. All I've done was confirm that what Tominari had said, but I still felt terrible about it. I almost felt complicit in condemning him. I could tell Tojo was agonizing over the idea that he'd overlooked something, since a child from the temple school was involved.
She managed to corner the summoner earlier by following the black threads, only for them to vanish through a hole in the wall. We thought it was strange at the time, but how did they get away? But all they did was escape through the hole at the bottom of the wall. It's small enough for a child.
Not that outrageous now that we know how they did it. We're totally convinced the summoner was an adult. The mysterious stick I found earlier that had been covered in black threads was the handle of a broken oyster catcher. Although the question was fairly straightforward, we couldn't have been further from the truth because we assumed the summoner was an adult. What happened to the kid you took in, by the way?
An examination showed that they've taken over his mind. He's been seen by both a soothsayer and a doctor, but hasn't regained consciousness.
He must have been hypnotized into summoning Blightfall.
Probably. He's been cursing the Edo Shogunate under his breath ever since. It's the strangest thing.
He's still so young, too. I feel terrible for him.
Don't be so quick to sympathize. It's all cloud in your judgment. It'll cloud your judgment. Oops.
I glanced over at Tojo while listening to them talk. It worried me, seeing him keep silent the entire time, tormented by his thoughts. The kid injured his arm, right?
Yeah, probably kickback from when we killed the Blightfall.
But would that have been severe enough to rip all the fingernails off his hand? Everyone thought that seemed strange.
This finally clears up why the Blightfall are only showing up in Samurai Town. Because the children living in Samurai Town were the ones summoning them.
Yes, the summoners, plural, were children. Based on the many Blightfall appearances so far, the only Waban suspected other children may have acted as summoners too. But why? How? A check of the other children who attended the temple school revealed that 9 of them had gone missing. Though their worried families were trying everything to find them, none had conducted large-scale searches, concerned it might aggravate the situation. I think I failed to notice anything was out of the ordinary, even though I'd been to the school before since the absent children were taken one by one. That's very likely. I'm concerned for the missing children's safety.
There's a strong possibility they see the children as expendable too.
I could tell this took Tojo's breath away. Tojo. I knew the temple school kids too. I understood some of the pain he was going through. Kunitaka, there are a few things I'd like you to confirm. Yes, sir. Kiyoshiro slowly produced a long, thin object wrapped in a handkerchief. handkerchief.
Is that...
Inside the handkerchief was the cursed object, an oyster catcher. Do you recognize this toy? Do you recognize this toy? I do. I've been told that you provided the children with the supplies to make these at school. Is that true? Yes. Any comments on the oyster catcher being used as a cursed object for summoning Blightfall? Be. He hesitated, then went silent like he was at a loss for words. Are you okay? I couldn't help but ask, concerned about him. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sorry. He's not fine. Tojo slowly exhaled, as him to calm himself down. I did in fact have the kids make oyster catchers. But I never imagined they would become cursed objects to summon Blightfall. I'm not sure how this happened. They were just toys when they made them, nothing more. I really don't... Yeah, I'm sure Soup would have noticed something if they were covered in black threads. I can explain too. Yeah, she's about to say. I was also there. There really wasn't anything unusual about the oyster catchers when they made them. The oyster catchers used during this incident was one of the ones... The oyster catcher used during this incident was one of the ones we made then. I know this for a fact because this one had a huge chicken-like crust on it. Oh, it's the chicken kid. Sounds like Tojo gave them oyster catchers he made himself before. Those wouldn't have anything to do with this case. Even though I was defending him, I felt a sense of unease wash over me. But once all the students had vanished, they might use the ones Tojo made himself next. I won't be able to defend him then, since I didn't see him make those. He was calm on the outside, but he had a terrified look in his eyes. He was always so confident. I'd never seen that look in his eyes before. He's not nearly as shaken up as he was when he took the boy in, but I can clearly tell how rattled he is without even seeing the color of his threads. If I could tell, then the other Oniwaban must have picked up on his unusual behavior as well. Speaking of which, didn't your previous owner also run a temple school, Kunitaka? Kiyoshiro said this out of the blue, filled with emotion. Huh, why is he bringing this up now? A bad feeling came over me after I gave it some thought. Wait, but vessels don't remember their owners, do they? I couldn't tell what Kiyoshiro's motives were, bringing up this topic. It made me uneasy. Children also died as a result of your owner's negligence. It was terrible. What happened? To think you'll find yourself in a similar situation. History really does repeat itself. Please stop. Tojo began to speak like he couldn't take it any longer. What happened to him was an unfortunate accident. Completely different circumstances from what's happening now. The fire was no one's... He began to say something, only to clam up like he'd come to a sudden realization. The color quickly drained from his face. Oh no. Kiyoshiro, on the other hand, wore a rather grim expression. Oh fuck. Huh, wait. What does that mean? The meaning behind their conversation didn't sink in right away. My thoughts briefly screeched to a halt. Their heart was supposed to be locked away. What happened to him? The fire back then? What? Based on the way he said that just now, it sounded like Tojo remembers being an object. The gears slowly started turning in my head as I began to comprehend the truth. It doesn't just sound like it. His memories actually come back to him. Kiyoshiro had probably already suspected as much. He'd said something provocative to goad Tojo into blurting it out. Everyone else in the room was staring at Tojo grimly, not saying a single word. Oh lord, what's gonna happen? Oh my god, I'm locked in. Your memories of being an object have returned, haven't they, Kunitaka? Oops, that was the wrong voice. Your memories of being an object have returned, haven't they, Kunitaka? Tojo feebly looked down at the ground, both to nod in agreement and also to look away from Kyoshiro. When did your memories return? They've been back since I saw the fire a little while ago. Oh, a little while ago, you say? The tone of his voice suggested that he wasn't entirely convinced. I looked around at everyone else in the room and saw them all giving Tojo dubious stares. What should I do? I don't believe him. As a bystander, it was hard not to suspect Tojo. Tojo had provided the oyster catcher that had become a cursed object and had also opened the temple. Tojo had provided the oyster catcher. What? No signal. Tojo had provided the oyster catcher that had become a cursed object and had also opened the temple school where he gathered the children of samurai families. There were too many things connecting him to this Blightfall case. Damn. And as luck would have it, his memory has returned. I'm sure I don't need to spell it out at this point. But do you understand why vessels have their hearts and memories sealed away, don't you? We're created to fight Blightfall, and it keeps the Blightfall from encroaching on our minds. Right. Blightfall could eat away at your mind, driving you mad. As beings created to counteract them, vessels didn't have hearts, a person's only weakness against Blightfall. Their memories were also sealed away to keep them from persuading vessels into reclaiming their hearts. A vessel whose memories had returned wasn't much different from a human. They were susceptible to Blightfall. It was entirely possible the Blightfall was already controlling him.
Kyoshiro, can't you cut to the chase? Tojo might already be a Blightfall for all we know. Tojo being behind all this explains why these oyster catchers function as cursed objects. Even children will approach them without suspecting anything.
No, I didn't do it.
How are we supposed to believe a vessel who has his memories back? Wait, there's no need to talk to him like... I've said nothing but the truth. As it stands, Tojo is far too untrustworthy. What's wrong with trying to rule out risks? Everyone else seemed to agree with Yabuda's harsh opinion. No one attempted to cover for Tojo. Based on the circumstances, it's highly likely that Tojo is the mastermind behind this case. I don't want to believe it, but... I would never... Vessels whose memories have returned are suspected of being under the influence of Blightfall must undergo the reimplementation ritual. What? I thought they were going to make him cut open his stomach or something. Reimplementation. Ceremonies that turn vessels back into their original object form, performed when they regain their hearts or when there is a high chance they'll turn into a Blightfall. Reimplemented vessels can never reawaken as vessels or form folk. Oh, so he's going to turn back into a tobacco case. Oh, so like, yeah, you're just gonna, you having sentient? You like being sentient? Well, screw that. You're not gonna be sentient no more. No more. No more. Damn. Reimplementation? I was perplexed by the unfamiliar word. Still, I could figure out what they were going to do based on the literal meaning on the word. You don't mean turning him back into an implement? Correct. Correct. By completely separating his soul from his physical form, you'll be
relieved of his duties as a vessel. We must prepare for the ritual.
The sooner the better.
But it's Kunitaka Tojo. The nightmarish discussion was moving along quickly, as if they already settled on disposing of him, that is, killing him. Panicked, I looked to his longtime companion, Tomonari, for help. What do we do, Tomonari? At this rate, Tojo will be...
They made the right call. At this point, there's not much we can do.
I could feel my vision blacking out over him stating something so devastating in such a matter-of-fact way. This shocking situation was making my head spin. Still, I held strong since I knew this was no time to complain. I'm the only one who can stick up for him right now. I inhale. But you don't have any proof! When I gave them a piece of my mind, everyone turned their eyes on me. I nearly choked up from nerves. I never had so many people paying attention to me before. After convincing myself to stay calm, I looked Kiyoshiro square in the eye. You assume Tojo is behind all of this, but you don't have a shred of evidence. Now listen, Soup. Tojo humbly tried to stop me. He was probably concerned that I'd just put myself in an even worse situation if I disobeyed them. I pretended like I didn't hear him. Even if he were the culprit, should we really be dealing with him right now? We still don't know where the children are or any other details about the case. There will be plenty of time to decide how to punish him once the case had been solved. I did a pretty good job negotiating, if I did say so myself. Kiyoshiro simply stared at me, pity in his eyes, with no intention of saying anything back. I guess you wouldn't know since we never told you. Huh? In the event that a vessel must be disposed of, there are incantations that allow us to check the reverted object for memories they accumulated. Right. So, if he is behind all this, we'll eventually have that evidence once we dispose of him. In which case, we'll be able to solve what happened to the missing children in addition to the string of incidents involving cursed objects.
Supposing he doesn't have anything to do with it, we'll still have absolved ourselves of a vessel at risk of being influenced by Blightfall. You can't! Please understand that it's just a part of being a vessel.
Hand it over, Kunitaka. Kiyoshiro's gaze had landed on Tojo's tobacco pouch. I intuitively understood that Tojo must be a vessel of that pouch. Didn't he mention earlier that he loved that pouch? It really did mean a lot to him. His original implement must have been essential to performing both the re-implementation ritual as well as the incantation for checking his memories. Give it to me, Kunitaka. The rest of the Oniwaban watched silently as Kiyoshiro made his request a second time. It really seemed like no one objected to Tojo being disposed of. Damn. It wasn't me. Seriously. Every single pair of eyes on Tojo, someone they'd fought alongside as a comrade, was cold as ice. They regarded him with almost pure apathy, like he had nothing to do with them. I felt a chill go down my spine the moment I saw this. I didn't know anything about the Oniwaban organization. I thought they were all good people who protected Edo from Blightfall. But this is their true form. The thought suddenly made me terrified of the people I'd been spending my time with. Even humans like Miyagi and Yabuta viewed vessels as mere objects. Even so, I hate to just let things end like this. At that moment, I found myself remembering Tojo's gentle smile. He told me that his favorite moments were the ones he spent with me and the kids at the temple school. He was always thinking of what's best for the kids. I couldn't imagine someone as kind as Tojo using them. Scolding myself for faltering, I raised my voice to object once more. I never once saw any black threads at the temple school, I stated clearly, filled with determination. Tojo looked at me, shocked. He probably never imagined I would refuse to back down from an Oniwaban decision for this long. I watched him hand out the oyster catcher supplies at school and didn't see anything suspicious. The children all brought their oyster catchers up to Tojo and I once they were done to show us what they'd made. I didn't see any black threads then either, meaning they must have become cursed objects after we left school that day. Someone must have tampered with the oyster catchers and turned them into cursed objects when we weren't looking. Right now, I think we should prioritize finding whoever's actually behind this instead of punishing Tojo. Yeah, but he still remembers his memory. He remembers his memory. Memory. He remembered my memory. Please hold on, shaking. After giving it a bit of thought, Kiyoshiro groaned in agreement.
Soup does have a point. We can't disregard the opinion of the only gifted one here.
The tide had shifted. Even though I was still nervous, I could see that the rest of the Oniwaban were in agreement for the most part.
You mean you think someone actually did do something after they left the school?
There is still more investigating to be done, including what she just mentioned. I waited patiently for Kiyoshiro's verdict while listening to the opinions of the other vessels. Understood. If Soup is this insistent, let's give him another chance for now. But what about his memories?
Really?
Kiyoshiro gave me a nod and turned to face Tojo once again. Alright, Kunitaka. I'll deem you innocent if you can find whoever made the cursed object within a month. If you aren't able to, we'll dispose of you with no opportunity for recourse. Yes, sir. Tojo pursed his lips and nodded vigorously. The conditions Kiyoshiro set forth were strict. Considering Tojo had been moments away from being disposed of, he'd been granted a fairly long stay.
Hey, Kiyoshiro, now's not the time to be giving out lenient time frames like a whole month. I'm against this.
I don't think it's all that bad if it allows us to find out who's really behind this.
On the contrary, he might cause even more damage in the meantime.
I understand where you're coming from, but leave this decision to me. Kunitaka hasn't been cleared of his charges, so he certainly won't be permitted to work alongside you as a member of the Oniwaban. He'll continue to have the same authority vested in him as a member of the Oniwaban, but you are not to share any new information with him. I also forbid you from entering the temple school while the Oniwaban investigates. Does that work for you? Yes, sir. Not a problem.
I'll work with Tojo. Wait, for real?
You realize you're choosing the hard way here, don't you? I can't tell if you're being noble or just have a strange predilection? I don't know. Soup, well, I'm glad to hear you feel that way. Just drop it.
I agree. Don't put yourself through hell.
They were probably saying this out of concern for me, but I already made up my mind. Thanks, Tominari, but I've already made up my mind. What happens when we need you around to check emotional imprints? It'll be rough without you. I'll be there if you ever need me. Ask for me anytime.
She's helping on this.
I am. I know Tojo is innocent.
You trust him that much, do you? That's nice.
It's great that she trusts him, but if Soup's sliding with Tojo, we can't have her at the base either. You're okay with that?
There's no getting around it. I'm fully aware.
You really shouldn't come with me. You'll just be putting yourself through hell.
I'm used to it. Tojo furrowed his eyebrows, looking rather troubled when I said this with a smile. He was worried about me in spite of his own precarious situation. He really was a kind person. I knew vessels weren't humans, that I shouldn't harbor any romantic feelings for one. I wouldn't make the same mistake twice. And yet I wanted to choose to be on his side. I don't mind if I go through hell for it. I'd rather do what I believe in. Tojo looked conflicted when he saw how firmly I made up my mind.
Is this all your luggage?
Yeah, thank you for carrying it.
There's less than I expected.
I never wanted much, so I only packed what I needed.
Really? Okay.
Tojo was unusually inarticulate. He must still be a bit shaken up, even though he was granted an extension. After the discussion we had earlier, I was asked to move out of the Oniwaban base where I'd been staying and into Tojo's private home. This was because Tojo was no longer permitted to use Oniwaban base, and after choosing to side with him, neither was I. I brought Kamame along with me. She was playing happily in the yard, excited by the unusual scenery. Her cuteness was my only source of comfort in this moment. But what happens now? If we can't find whoever's actually behind all this in a month? It makes me so sad seeing our comrades suspect Tojo like this, even though he didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't fight or flight kicking in, but all of a sudden I felt really worried despite holding firm until just a few moments ago. I actually found it a little bizarre how emboldened I'd been during that discussion.
Sigh.
Tojo had been silent almost the whole way here. Maybe his feelings haven't quite caught up to him after the sudden turn of events. It looked like he pulled himself together, though. He was finally back to his usual self.
Feel free to make yourself at home. Let me know if there's anything else you need.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Once a bit of awkward silence had passed, Tojo began to speak again.
I'm sorry I dragged you into all this.
No, not at all. I did it because I wanted to.
Hey, why are you so blue?
Why? Because Tojo was in dire straits. Of course I was feeling down in the dumps. I kept silent, and Tojo scratched his head uncomfortably.
Ah, shucks. I get all out of whack when you're feeling blue because you're always so cheerful. You'll make Kamame worry too if you keep that up. In fact, she might think I'm the one who made you sad and attack me. Guess it's not really wrong to say I caused it, though.
In spite of his efforts to brighten up the room, it broke my heart even more because I could tell he was forcing it. I felt more and more unsure of what to say. I'm sorry.
Nah, you didn't do anything wrong, so don't you?
We both fell silent. An awkward atmosphere had been between us. I took the opportunity to sneak a glance at Tojo. I hadn't been able to tell until just recently, but upon closer inspection, I could see something faint around his neck that resembled threads! Wow! Well, it makes sense. Although I still can't clearly make out the color of his emotions, I know I wasn't able to see those before. Unlocking his memory seemed to be causing the seal on Tojo's heart to come undone as well. Vessels with hearts were defenseless against Blightfall and at risk of being susceptible to them. If I set my emotions aside and made a purely rational decision, I'd probably say that Oniwaban's decision to dispose of him was the right thing to do. As much as I don't want to think about it. I braced myself, then broached the topic. So, your memories are back.
Well, yeah. Although it was sort of an accident.
Tojo said a bit sardonically before sitting down. Looking exhausted, I followed his lead and sat a little ways from him.
I never thought it would come to this. I was floored when it all came back to me.
What kinds of things do you remember? I realized what I just said after the words had already left my mouth. Tojo recalled witnessing a fire, meaning his memories likely revolved around that. I can't believe I asked him so insensitively when his past might be painful. Tojo didn't seem to mind, however. He slowly began to speak. As Kiyoshiro pointed out earlier, I'm a vessel made from the tobacco pouch I use all the time. Back when I was just a tobacco pouch, I was used by the second son in line of... Back when I was just a tobacco pouch, I was used by the second son in line to the Takamoto samurai family. Naturally, the eldest son was set to be the family's successor. My owner, the second son, couldn't stay at home forever. So he decided to open a temple school. He always had a knack for teaching people things. Teaching the children schoolwork and martial arts, and realizing he was needed by others, brought him happiness. That's the kind of guy he was. But deep down, he felt a constant emptiness he was never able to fill.
Emptiness?
An inferiority complex about his brother. Tojo said this in an almost self-deprecating way. His older brother was an upstanding man, excelling in his studies and martial arts training, yet he was humble, never haughty, and a kind, all-around good guy. No one had any doubts about his brother. No one had any doubts that his brother had the resourcefulness to be their rightful heir. Everyone had high hopes for him, including their parents. He was proud of his brother, too. On the other hand, the fact that he never stuck up to his older brother had been instilled in him from childhood. A brilliant older brother and a mediocre younger one. Having been by his side longer than anyone else, I was well aware how painful being compared to him was. He spoke as if he were talking about himself. Tojo had mentioned feeling self-conscious around Kuga before. That must have been influenced by his original owner's inferiority complex towards his brother. I can only imagine what that must have been like. I'm sure it was terribly hard for him. When you're constantly being compared to someone better, it's hard to give yourself any credit. Exactly. He did the best he personally could to overcome his inferiority complex. He found purpose in life, being needed by the children at the temple school. He was trying to get help, slowly but surely. But not long afterwards, he had to quit working at the temple school.
Did something happen?
The older brother, who was supposed to be the heir to the family, went missing after running off with a courtesan. Absolutely no one saw it coming. Without an heir, the family line was in danger of ending. His parents called their second son back home in a huge panic. All of a sudden, he had to succeed his father as heir. To their chagrin, however, he just wasn't cut out for being head of the family or a samurai. Even then, they compared him to his older brother. He lost all confidence in himself once again after having accepted himself at temple school. The family gradually declined afterwards. He blamed himself for being incomplete.
That's so sad. No one was at fault. Not the oldest son, who had chosen to be with a woman he loved, nor the family for summoning their younger son for the sake of their family. Or the younger son, who did the best he could to help, but was never able to live up to everyone's expectations, quite like his older brother had. When it rains, it pours. Rub salt into the wound of temple school he ran a long time ago caught fire.
What?
He handed it off to someone else to run, but those same kids continued going there. One of his students started the fire.
What happened?
When he was notified about the fire, he ran over to the school in a panic. The fire was so ferocious, however, he couldn't run in to help. In the end, all the children died. He was distraught. He wasn't able to protect the children who had once needed him. He lost all hope in life after that. Both his mind and body deteriorated, and he gradually withered away until he died. The Takamoto family had finally lost both heirs. There was talk of the family adopting from outside, but his parents wouldn't do it. They must have felt terribly responsible in the wake of their youngest son's death. They accepted that it was the family's fate to die out. Once he finished talking, Tojo exhaled. Those are the memories I can recall. Sorry if I talked for so long.
Not at all. Thank you for telling me.
I never thought my memories would come rushing back to me. It probably was from seeing the fire up close.
You are a bit similar. You and your previous owner, I mean. Of course you both ran temple schools, but that's not the only thing. I hesitated, realizing that might have been rude of me to say.
You mean feeling inferior to Ginjuro? Ginjuro?
Yeah. Yeah, hearing you talk just now reminded me of what you said before about feeling self-conscious about Ginjuro. Ginjuro. Sounds like the relationship between the brothers you were just talking about. He might have been your owner, but you're still your own person, aren't you, Tojo? Just with some similarities.
Yeah, I guess. It must have influenced how my personality developed since they sealed away my memories of being an object. If I had these memories from the very beginning, if I had just been born as a form folk, maybe I could have carved out my own place in life where I was me, and he was his own person too. All I can do is use my imagination now.
But maybe you're right. Tojo sat up straight like he'd just decided something.
He wasn't able to protect what was important to him. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes for his sake. If I can't help children in trouble.
That's the spirit. I'm sure the children are waiting for you too, Tojo.
You're always helping me out, Soup. I never thought you'd go against Kyushiro like that. You got more guts than I gave you credit for.
You're only just now noticing? You can't survive in the mountains on your own without guts.
I'm no match for you.
I was relieved to see Tojo's expression soften into a smile.
They probably would have disposed of me right then and there if you hadn't given your opinion. I'm grateful it got postponed, even if it was for a short while. It's all thanks to you. I'm truly grateful for what you did. Thank you.
Tojo said, then turned to me and bowed his head deeply. I was bewildered. All I did was tell the truth. I knew you weren't involved, so it was only right for me to side with you. More importantly, I'll do everything I can to help you out. Let's find the children together.
Nah, it's fine.
To my surprise, he flatly refused. What? But if I can be the slightest bit hopeful...
I'm grateful that you stuck up for me earlier. This is my problem to deal with, though. I shouldn't drag you out any further into this. I know I only just brought your luggage here, but go back to the Oniwaba now. They'll take you back in. I'll be fine. I'll figure out the rest on my own.
Tojo smiled after saying that, but I could tell he was forcing it. The second I saw him smile, I was overcome with sadness and frustration. Why was he making himself smile at a time like this? Does he really have so little faith in me? Does he not need my help? The idea that he turned me down because he didn't need me around made me extremely sad. I bit my lip to keep myself from tearing up. I wanted so badly to be stronger. I wanted to be someone he could rely on. Even if we'd never be in a relationship, even if he had said it was pointless, I liked him and wanted to support him. I'm begging you, it won't be any trouble.
Please let me stay here with you. I don't want to lose a precious friend like you, Tojo. I'm glad you feel that way, but at this rate, you might not be able to go back to the Oniwaban. I hate to lose you more than I hate to lose my place in the Oniwaban. My opinion hasn't changed. You're a good kid, so be reasonable. Go back to them. No. After we went back and forth for a while, him telling me to go back and me saying no, Tojo eventually caved. No. You're surprisingly stubborn. Yes, I am, so give up. Sheesh, guess I have no choice. Have it your way then.
Oh, okay, I will then. I did it! I'm glad I stood my ground. It's like them going,
I didn't dare show a hint of the exhilarated shouting going on inside my head. Right, I don't care if we'll never be in a relationship. I'd at least like to stand by Tojo's side as his friend. I said farewell to the love still smoldering away inside my heart and decided to support Tojo instead. We promptly set out for Samurai Town to gather information. What now? First, let's go talk to the families of the missing children. We need to find out what was going on when they disappeared. Soup, keep an eye out for any emotional imprints.
I'm on it.
We decided to pay a visit to my tea party pal, Chie, first. Oh yeah, she did have something to say. When we stopped by the Tanba residence, however, the servant who came to receive us told us that Chie wasn't home. We asked about the rest of the family and were told they had gone out and couldn't see us. In the end, we couldn't get any information from the Tanba family. We headed to another house afterwards, only to have the same result there. The servants must have been busy because they treated us rather coldly. After this happened to us a few times in a row, we realized something was amiss. Do you think they're avoiding us? They're probably avoiding me, to be precise. Makes sense when you think about it. The children who went to Tojo's temple school had all gone missing, one by one after all. Much like the Oniwaban, it made sense that the children's families suspected him as well. In that case, let's ask someone who doesn't live in one of these mansions. One of them might know something. We greeted townsfolk who happened to be walking down the street. They stopped when we called out to them, but their behavior suddenly shifted when they realized Tojo was standing behind me. Then they'd leave. It only happened once or twice, but our mood sank down even further. I guess the bad rumors about you must have made it around town. Yep, not sure what to do about that. I thought I understood the situation we were in, but it was much worse than I had imagined. What do we do? We won't get our hands on any information this way. Tojo peered at me consolingly as I stood there dejected. Don't give up just yet. If we can't talk to the children's parents or any of the townsfolk, we'll just have to get the info out of someone else. So, I wonder if they might not talk to Tojo, but would they talk to Soup? Send the girlie in. You're right, but who would be a good person to ask? I've been thinking. I might know exactly one person. You know them too. Let me guess.
Mimi? Oh, who is it?
Someone who's been a real pain in the ass for the Oniwaban. You know. Tanichibo. I can't believe I remember his name. You know him.
Him?
Tanichibo. The next day, Tojo brought me to one of the parlor cells at the jail. Parlor cells, solitary confinement cells for detaining high-ranking prisoners. I see. If you mean Tanichibo, I bet he actually does know something. At the very least, we'll probably get more useful info out of him than asking out at random.
Hey, Tanichibo!
We found Tanichibo lying around in his cell when we came to visit. He clearly had a lot of free time on his hands.
Well, look who it is. I figured you'd be coming here soon. Wait, you knew we were coming? How would you? You want to know, do ya? Then come here and give me a shoulder rub. Sure!
Don't take him seriously, Soup. Tanichibo's just messing with you.
Huh? He is? Damn, busted. Lame.
Just when I thought you were reflecting on your actions in jail, here you are, telling dumb lies.
Nah, I just thought it would be cool to act like the mastermind behind it all. You gotta be pulling my leg at a time like this. Hey, I was just joshing with ya. I've been bored out of my mind living here in jail all this time. Don't look at me like that. You're gonna hurt my feelings giving me that cold stare. Then quit making jokes like that.
You must be healthy as a horse if you're joking around like that.
I got it pretty good since they're treating me like a key witness.
Normally, only people of above average social standing were held in parlor cells like this one. You definitely did have it pretty good.
Hey, I'm starving. Where's the grub?
He shouted apparently. That was his way of requesting meals from the guard keeping watch. He seemed to be thoroughly enjoying his stay. They might be monitoring him, but it seems like his life here is more comfortable than I thought. After taking his food from the guard, Tanichibo dug in, looking rather content.
Nothing beats a free meal.
I don't care if you're eating, so listen up. We came here today because we wanted to ask you something.
Ask me something?
Who did you get your Magatama from?
This again?
Tanichibo began to pout without any shame.
I told you already, my answer hasn't changed. No matter how many times you ask, I can't remember nothing about the guy I bought it from. I showed you the shop where I bought it earlier, didn't I? And there was nothing there. I came clean with everything I know. Man, they even tortured and hypnotized me, and I still couldn't come up with nothing. Torture?
So they resorted to that, huh?
Check out these scars.
Tanichibo showed us his back underneath his kimono. Multiple angry red welts ran down his back like he'd been struck with a whip. How horrible. Tojo seemed to feel the same way I did because he meekly lowered his head in apology to Tanichibo. I'm sorry about that, Tanichibo. If we'd found the culprit sooner, you wouldn't have been hurt any more than necessary. I'm sorry, Tanichibo. I lowered my head as well.
I mean, it's not your fault. I definitely did do something bad, so it only makes sense that I get roughed up. Wait, where's the other guy today? Tomonari, I mean.
I'll explain that in more detail. Tojo explained the situation, omitting all the information about vessels. For some reason, Tanichibo flashed us a wide grin once Tojo was done talking.
Huh, I see. So you're saying if I'm helpful, Kunitaka here would be forever indebted to me? And if Kunitaka finds whoever who did all this on his own, he'll be a huge disgrace to the shogunate that tortured me. Alright, I'll bite. I'll help you guys out.
Do you believe I'm innocent?
I mean, you didn't do it, right?
No, of course not.
If you say you didn't, then that's good enough for me. Thank you.
Tojo's face lit up with relief after finally finding someone else who would take his side. After going through the anxiety of having no one else on our side, I was really grateful to have another ally. Unfortunately for your guys, I've already told you everything I know.
It's reassuring to have your help either way. I decided to ask him some questions from a different angle than before. Why did you buy the Magatama, Tinichibo? Did you buy something that just happened to be a cursed object? Was it presented as a cursed object when you bought it? After giving it some thought, Tinichibo began to speak like he was remembering the circumstances at the time. I was on my way down the mountain that day after I finished training. I was walking, thinking about selling some medicinal herbs. Right, then all of a sudden I see the Magatama. I didn't care that it belonged to someone else. The second I saw it, I absolutely needed it. I had eyes for the Magatama and nothing else.
And then?
When I talked to them, they told me the Magatama had unique powers and they'd sell it to me if I wanted it so badly. Pretty sure that's how it went anyway. Then he said to bring up the Magatama's powers to my old man, the Shogun. I was honestly hoping to send a petition straight to them after doing some more training, but then I kind of lost perspective and, Something wrong? Wait. I think I might have talked to him about my dad. The memories themselves are fuzzy, so I'm not sure, but I probably did. I exchanged glances with Tojo. Whoever sold him the Magatama was definitely suspicious.
He definitely wasn't a merchant. I bet you he was standing there with the intention of handing you the Magatama from the very start.
Handing it to me? But I paid for it.
They had no need to turn you down when you were willing to pay. They just made a profit on you.
What? You mean I spent every last bit of money I had when he was planning to give it to me for free? Damn it, give me my money back! That's unfortunate. You have my sympathies.
Either way, don't get hung up on that part. No matter how fascinating it might have been, was it really mesmerizing enough to make you forget everything else?
True. I couldn't think about anything other than the Magatama. You think I was bewitched? It happened right around nightfall. Maybe it was some kind of yokai.
Based on what we just talked about, maybe the person who sold you the Magatama wasn't a person at all.
Yikes, I never saw scary stuff like a yokai out in the mountains.
Tanichibo resumed eating what was left of his meal after replying in an easygoing manner. Tojo and I gave him a sidelong glance to continue talking. Tojo, when you say whoever sold him the Magatama might not have been human,
I thought a human was using the Blackfall to cause these incidents, like what happened with Tanichibo. But maybe that's not what happened at all. Maybe a Blackfall itself is deceiving humans.
I see. If a Blightfall is infecting things with malice and turning them into cursed objects, it explains how mere toys become cursed objects. I'd seen Blightfall born from people infected with malice back in the village. If these cursed objects were made using that same process.
Naturally occurring Blackfall aren't intelligent enough for that, though. I mean, there's a chance the culprit behind this is a human turned Blackfall.
I've heard it explained before, but what does that actually entail?
I've only seen it a few times myself. They retain their human intelligence and can speak, which makes for extremely wicked beings.
I had no idea Blightfall like that existed.
There's one thing we cleared up by coming here.
Tanichibo's plan to claim he was Tanichibo's plan to claim he was the son of the shogun being bumped up, the children and residences of prominent daimyo being targeted, and hypnotized children cursing the shogunate. These incidents all demonstrated a single fact.
There's no doubt about it. Whoever is behind this is trying to cause harm to Edo itself.
Given that they were deliberately targeting prominent daimyo, they seemed to be trying to destroy the shogunate by going after its central pillar.
That must have been why the temple school was also been targeted. The children of samurai families gathered there. Does that mean their eventual target is Chiyoda Castle and Lord Yoshimune himself? I fear that might be the case. The Blythefall also have 9 children at their disposal. Edo will bounce back after any attack as long as its central pillar is safe. If anything were to happen to Lord Yoshimune, however, Edo will be thrown to a state of chaos. If they really plan on targeting Lord Yoshimune, the children might already be on standby somewhere near the castle. True. We can't afford to put that aside. Hey! Kunichibo, who had finished eating at some point, said rather languidly. I don't get what you guys are talking about, but the gist of it is that a yokai kidnapped some children and is trying to destroy Edo, yeah? That yokai kind of sounds like a kidnapping god. Kidnapping gods, a type of yokai that kidnaps a child and playing until dusk, like that fucking Pokemon with the fucking Pokemon. Drifloon. A kidnapping god? You mean those yokai that abduct children? Yep, that's what it tells in the name. Oh yeah, well, it's been awfully inconvenient not having a name for this Blythefall. Let's call it the Kidnapping God temporarily. Sounds good. Ooh, you used my idea. Thanks to Nichibo's help, we closed in on the enemy's true form ever so slightly. Although we were still grasping at straws, Tojo and I had detected a small sliver of hope. Let's go. I think this is a good place to stop. Hell yeah. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Well, I knew there was going to be some consequences, like if they, their whole heart being sealed. I guess it's a form folk or a vessel version of being offed, being killed. Yeah, but that's unfortunate. But like even when the month is up and Kunitaka didn't do it, his heart is still free. And I assume they're not just gonna let him off like, yeah, you can just go be a normal guy now. Go, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But this part of the game, I was locked in. I am interested, and now and the fucking soup and Kunitaka living in the same place together. Who knows what will happen? But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.